from the state's perspective is whether or not your thoughts are that we would need to now use half a day Friday or what the situation is.
We spent most of the morning redoing the schedule. I think we got it to a place where we can stay on track.
Okay,
I think our only day of concern might be Wednesday afternoon.
okay,
But the concern really is that we might end a little bit early.
okay.
Um,
I'm not terribly worried about that,
okay.
and if it's a little early. I just, if I can, I would like to let the jurors know that this does not change us being off this Friday, but I won't say that unless everyone thinks that's correct.
I mean, I think based on our new schedule, it does not anticipate us going into Friday.
Okay,
So I think at this point, we can safely say we're on track, barring, of course, another
sure,
somewhat significant delay that
sure. Okay,
aren't aware of.
all right, then we'll have them come in.
Okay, Judge, would you like me to leave the record running or would you like to go off record?
Let's go off the record.
Okay, we'll go off record and I'll mute for WebEx while I go get the jury.
I want to start by apologizing to both the jury and to anyone else who was inconvenienced by the late start we had this morning. The reality is there were a number of us who woke up surprised at the snowfall, and I learned relatively late that there would be parties necessary for today's trial who were impacted travel-wise by the snow. Uh, Having said all that, I think I had mentioned earlier that trials are inherently unpredictable and sometimes these things happen. We are going to still end at 5 tonight. And at this point, we don't see any need to use Friday as a trial day either. Of course, if we have some other weather event during the week, uh, all bets are off. But appreciate it. I do know, I think at least 8 of you were here by 8 o'clock or even earlier than 8 o'clock. So for those of you who did manage to get here on time, we do appreciate it. But with that, we're going to turn back to the trial, and I'll ask the state who their next witness is.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state calls Adam Johnson.
Bless you. All right, Mr. Johnson, we'll have you come up here, and if you could step into the witness box, but don't have a seat just yet, my clerk will give you an oath in just a moment.
And can I have you step a little closer to the microphone? That way we can pick you up. Great, thank you. And I'll have you raise your right hand. Under the penalty of perjury, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, then you may be seated and you can remove your mask. And then when you're ready, I'll have you state your name and spell it, both first and last name.
Adam Johnson at AdamJohnson.
All right, and if you want, Mr. Johnson, there is water there, but whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mr. Johnson. Can you tell us, what do you currently do for work?
I'm a cook.
And did you previously attend Oregon Culinary Institute?
I did.
And when did you attend that school?
End of September of 2017 into April of 2019.
All right. And what program were you enrolled in?
I was enrolled in the weekend culinary program.
Through the entire time?
Yes.
And do you recall roughly, was it every Saturday and Sunday?
Yes, every Saturday and Sunday, unless there was a holiday, which I don't remember too many holidays falling on the weekend.
Okay. And then do you remember roughly what time it was?
Yeah, usually class started around 8 a.m. and went until about 3:34 p.m.
And can you tell us, in the course of the time that you were in the culinary program, roughly, how many instructors did you have?
I would say maybe four or five.
And from testimony we've heard already, it sounds like did the instructors rotate based on the term you were in?
Yeah, so each term there would be kind of a focus on what we were learning. So, and those instructors would instruct according to that specific focus.
All right. And so during your time at the Culinary Institute, did you have Chef Daniel Brophy as an instructor?
I did.
And can you tell us a little bit about what he was like as an instructor, what his class was like?
He was very informed. Like, he knew his stuff, and he was patient for the most part. He took the time to make sure that his students understood what he was trying to convey in the lessons. And if someone was have a difficult understanding, he always left the door open for students to come in earlier to sit down and to get that extra help they needed on the homework or the assignments. I'd say he was one of my favorite instructors of all time, just because of how hands-on he was. He was good. I don't know really how to describe it, but when you're teaching someone how to cook, it takes both verbal and actual doing of the tasks to learn from it. And he was very good at balancing both of those.
And did the term that you were in his class have a specific focus then, or subject matter?
I believe that was about the time we were getting ready to do the restaurant portion of it, which would be live fire, like cooking on the line, experiencing what it would be like to work in the kitchen during service. So at that time, he was probably focusing on the costs and production of what it would be like to run a kitchen.
And it sounds like we've heard there's a lot of math involved in that sometimes.
Yeah, so food costing can require a decent amount of math. Um, it's a lot of division mostly. I mean, it's basic math for the most part, but you can overcomplicate it in your head pretty easily when you're trying to do it.
And do you recall, I know it's been quite some time, if your class size stayed the same throughout the course of your time, if it dwindled?
It definitely dwindled. I think when we started out, we had somewhere close to 16 or 20 students, but I think every week in the beginning, we'd probably have somebody that would just not show up anymore by quitting or what, or other people finding out that maybe this wasn't something they wanted to do professionally, realizing that it's a little bit harder than, just walking in and being, oh, I can make a PB&J. You know, it's there's a lot to running in a kitchen, like a lot of stress. And some people see that and then they're like, okay, I can't do this anymore and quit. So I think we ended the class when we all graduated. I think there was 8 or 10 of us. So I think we lost maybe about 50% of the class from the beginning.
All right. And throughout the course of the class, and maybe as the class got smaller, did you get to know your classmates pretty well?
Yeah, I think we all, we all fairly got pretty close because, we endured, we lasted that long. Um, so yeah, we definitely built a closeness. I know there might be some individuals that we didn't really, I mean, I guess there's a smaller group of us. Um, Maybe it's just because that smaller group happened to be in the industry prior to going to school, so we already had that kind of understanding and closeness. Um, I, and probably around the same age too, and that's probably why we were closer than some other students. So
And during the course of your time at the Culinary Institute, either in total or particularly with Chef Brophy, were there any field trips or sort of out of campus classes that you attended?
yes, we did do one field trip to the Oregon coast to learn about digging for clams and the renewable food source that the ocean has to provide. So we kind of scavenged with our shell license, and then he taught us how to cook right there on the beach with what we just caught. And I believe before the incident, we were planning on going to go forage for mushrooms either the following weekend or the weekend after that. So, but that didn't end up happening, for obvious reasons.
Okay. And so was it Chef Brophy then that took you on the field trip?
Yes, we all met him there at the coast. So,
And do you recall, was it just a 1 day thing? Did you go the night before?
some of us did go the night before to camp out because, I mean, who doesn't love camping? We use that as an excuse to go camping, and it was an early call because we had to get there before the tides changed, and I believe we started probably around like 7 in the morning. So trying to get out there that early from Portland might be an inconvenience. So some of us did go out and camp beforehand.
And do you remember, did you camp with Chef Brophy or was he somewhere else?
No, he had his own site. It was just me, Miranda, and Adrian that camped out at the campsite. We were at a tent site, and I think Chef might have been at a trailer site. I don't remember visiting his site, so I don't really know. I just know we were completely separated from him and met at the beach.
The next morning.
Yeah.
All right. And do you remember when that field trip was?
I want to say it was in March, maybe, or April. It might have been April.
So sometime during that term, right before Chef Brophy's death?
Yes.
And then it sounds like there was another field trip planned that would have come right after his death?
Yeah, we were talking about doing some mushroom foraging. So,
And was that something Chef Brophy was also organizing?
yes, he was a big mushroom forager. He knew his stuff and was going to be passing that on to us.
And were any plans in place for that? Did you know where you were going to go or?
I do not remember if we had a location set. I think it was going to be local, not a very far drive, from what I understand. Um, but yeah, I don't remember that.
All right. And, you know, in either on these field trips or in the classes that you had with Chef Brophy, did he ever talk much about his personal life?
Not really. Um, he was pretty professional for the most part. I mean, I think when some of the married individuals in our class, were probably griping about their life, he might have chimed in. I just remember him referring to his wife as the management, and that's about as much of the reference as I could get from what I can remember towards his personal life. Other than that, it was strictly to education. He was there to inform us about our food and our skills and where we can get food, ingredients, and networking, I guess. So,
And did you ever meet his wife or any other members of his family?
no, I've never met anyone from his family. It was strictly everyone at the school, the faculty members, and him when I attended.
And did Chef Brophy ever talk about retirement or anything like that?
Uh, I think he joked and said that he was just going to work until he died. He didn't really want to retire. I think he seemed like the individual that just enjoyed working, like always had to be doing something. Probably not somebody that would like to sit and, I don't know, do nothing or try to find another hobby. So,
All right. And I want to touch briefly on the morning of June 2nd of 2018. Were you scheduled for class that morning?
yes, and I was running late. So,
Okay.
I
And so,
worked
oh, go
full
ahead.
time during school. So, I was working late at night at departure at that time and slept, or the night before. So, I slept through my alarm about 45 minutes and probably arrived around 8:30, 8:45, and was not able to get into school. The officers had stopped me beforehand and told me to go home.
Okay. And so, were you driving?
Yes.
Okay. And did you even make it? Could you even turn into the school?
No. Um, I usually turn into it through Madison Street on the backside where the entrance is, because that's also where the parking is. And when I saw that blacked off, I had went around the roundabout and through the Jefferson side of the school and saw that was blocked off. Didn't know what was going on, and then the officer at the time, I think, saw that I was trying to get in and had told me, since things were going on, that I should probably just go home and wait for a call.
And did you get any notification from other students or the school?
Not until later that night, and I was notified that there was an accident, but I didn't really have too much of the information. It wasn't until I think I returned to school when they downloaded all the information to us students that weren't there.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mr. Jensen. I remember talking with an investigator for the defense about 6 weeks ago.
Uh, yes, I don't remember his name, but I remember him coming in and sitting down and talking with me.
All right. Do you remember telling him that Mr. Brophy gave you the impression that he and his wife were happy together?
I didn't really get any of those. Like I said, he's kept most of his personal life separate from school. So I didn't know if they were happy or unhappy. Just I figured they've been married a long time, and that they, I don't know. When you look at an older couple and you see how they interact, you don't think there's troubles, but sometimes the comments kind of can be misinterpreted, I guess. So I told him that I don't know how the relationship was. I just figured it was normal pitter patter. So.
Okay, so I think what you're saying is that you really don't have much information about their marriage or how he felt about their marriage.
No, not really. Like I said, he didn't talk too much about their marriage. I think, like I said earlier, when somebody in class would maybe comment about theirs, he might have chimed in about, like, oh yeah, I got to get that approved by management or something like that. And that's all he ever did really, is refer to her as the management.
So his nickname for her was the management.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's really about as much as he said about her?
Yeah, I never talked about any disagreements or agreements really on any of that.
Okay, all right. So it sounds like you were only in the weekend program, right? You only had weekend instructors.
Yes.
How many terms are there overall in that weekend program?
Trying to remember off the top of my head. I want to say 4. I know there was like an intro that talked about skill, like the beginning knife skills and sauces, and then after that it was more of the advanced stuff, like advanced cooking, like knowing your mother sauces, and so I want to say there was about 4 or 5 terms, but I can't remember exactly, to be honest.
And as best you can remember, how long were those terms?
I want to say about 8 to 12 weeks long, or 8 to 12 weekends, I should say, not weeks, but weekends.
And if you know, were they the same length as the terms of the regular program, the weekday program, or were they longer?
I believe ours were longer, so I think when we started and finished, there might have been 2 classes or 2 cycles of classes of the weekday terms. They, I know our weekend courses, I think because they were so condensed, we were condensing 5 days into 2. The timelines they weren't equal to the normal weekday classes, so they might have had some people graduate before we did. So
Okay, and the term that Chef Brophy died, was that your third term?
I believe that was, yeah, probably the 3rd or 4th term. I don't remember the exact details on the terms, to be honest. I don't have that in a calendar. Like,
No, that's fair. It was almost 4 years ago,
yeah,
right? Okay. But it does sound like you remember that that was the second term that you'd actually had him as an instructor. Is that right?
yes, I believe we had him. That would have been the 2nd term that we had him.
What does the term dragon hide mean?
The what?
Dragon hide?
Um, I would assume it's in reference to being able to withstand stress, and I don't know. I'm not too familiar with it, but I'm guessing it has to do with maybe like withstanding the stress of a kitchen.
Okay. Do you remember talking with Mr. Stringer, the defense investigator, about that, using that term yourself?
I don't remember using the dragon hide. I think I might have said you had to have hide like a dragon. I don't know. You have to be tough when you work in a kitchen. And I think that's all I think I was referencing. I don't know if I've used dragon hide
Uh,
before.
But that means something like having extra thick skin.
Yeah, you do have to have a thick skin. Yeah, I would assume that's what that means, is it means a thick skin.
And tell us a little bit about, well, I take it you had already been working as a cook or a chef prior to going to the Culinary Institute, prior to this program, had you not?
Yes.
Okay. How long have you been in the industry?
Before school or in total?
Total.
Total, since 2008, so 14 years now.
All right. And what kinds of, you referred to yourself as a cook. Can you tell us just a little bit more about the actual work you've done in the industry?
Um, I've done everything from working the grill, fry, saute, pastry and baking station, pantry. Done some catering work. I've done some private events. I've worked in bars. I've kind of bounced all over in a sense, trying to find,
Find your niche?
no, more of a challenge, to be honest. I think for me, I love it so much that the only way I felt like I was growing is if I was constantly challenging myself. So I haven't found something quite yet that's really keeps pushing me, but I'm always there looking. So
All right. So what's the largest restaurant you've ever worked in terms of the size of the kitchen staff?
um, that might have been Departure, probably, at the Nines. Uh, they had a pretty nicely staffed kitchen compared to the most of the other kitchens I've worked at.
And when you say nicely staffed, just roughly, when you were on duty, about how many other people would be comprising the kitchen staff that evening?
Let's see. There's usually 2 woks, a saute cook, a grill cook, a fry cook, 2 sushi cooks, and a pastry cook. Then the sous chefs, and then sometimes the executive chef on staff. So I'd say it was close to about 10 people.
Okay. And is there kind of a set hierarchy within kitchens like that when you've got that many people on staff? Are there
Yeah, there's executive chef, chef de cuisine, and the sous chef, and then line cooks. And then that's the hierarchy. So,
Okay. So when you talk about needing to have thick skin or extra thick skin, tell us a little bit about how that works in that industry. It sounds,
Um, you'll get a million dishes that you have to make, and you're trying to produce them as quickly as you can, and sometimes you make mistakes, and sometimes people will snap, and you have to remake that dish, and being able to just not take it personal and then start remaking that dish. Otherwise, if you sit there and bog yourself down with why you were getting yelled at, or why the dish was incorrect, you're going to slow down the production rate and fall behind even more so, and more stress gets piled on that point because you're now 10 dishes behind instead of the 5 that you originally had. So you have to have that thick skin where you can't just let yourself break down, I guess.
do you think it's fair to say that in that industry, people tend to express their tempers a little bit more readily than they might in other kinds of workplaces?
Yes, because it is a fast-paced environment, and you have to convey your urgency as much as you can, and sometimes you don't sit there and pause to think about how it makes you feel when you're trying to respond to it. You just snap and respond.
So let's relate that back now to OCI and especially Chef Brophy. How would they teach you to prepare you for that sort of environment? I mean, it sounds like it really requires kind of a specific skill set.
That I believe is learned through experience. The school can't really teach you that. You learn, I guess, a little bit when you see your workload going into your day, when you see your massive prep list and what you have to produce in such a limited amount of time. You get maybe 3 hours to chop, mince, dice, whatever it is that you need to do, make the sauce, reduce, whatever. Um, that's a big stress key right there. And when you're working in a kitchen with that on top of actually having service going on is something you'll learn as you go. In the school, I don't think can really emphasize that so much because the volume of customers that we are exposed to is very limited compared to if you were to go into a high volume restaurant. So you learn kind of that when you're working in a live fire, but they don't really, it's not, the pressure's not there enough to cause anybody to snap or to be hurtful, I should say. More assertive, like I need you to stop burning that food and start cooking the new dish. Like that's what it is. It wasn't
You mean
like,
a
oh,
real,
you're horrible at your job, get out. It was never like what you see on TV with Gordon Ramsay. Like you never, it's not how it is. That's an over dramatization of most kitchens. So
well, for whatever it's worth, I think the same thing about a lot of legal shows. So, but the point of the live fire exercise was to try to get you ready for that sort of thing, wasn't
yes,
it?
being able to adapt and work on the fly in a sense. Like you send a dish out and then they send back and they're saying that they didn't want onions. Then you have to sit there and make a new dish. So being able to just adapt and being able to make those dishes without having a ticket or uh, an order of fire, a fire order. So you have to just kind of throw it in there and deal with it.
So on live fire day, how was that simulated? Were there a number of instructors or people there who were pretending to be patrons,
I
throwing
believe
orders at you, or was that all coming from Chef Brophy?
Um, so we didn't. I think we got maybe 1 or 2 weekends with Chef Brophy on that, and he gives it the restaurant to us. And so the people that come to eat there are people that we invite. So our friends and family, they can come and eat. And we usually would have shifts. So like 3 people on the line cooking, 3 people working the floor, serving food, taking orders. That's how it was. That's how we ran it. And we had to plan it accordingly. So we'd have to say, okay, we want so and so on saute. We want you to serve this time, and then we'll flip. So
So if you came in and they assigned you to be one of the servers, you would only be doing that
for that day, and then the next day it would flip. So anybody who was on the floor serving would have to cook the next day.
okay. And I've heard varying figures about the size of the class when you began, like the very first term. I don't mean that this term when Chef Brophy died, but at the very beginning of the program. How many people did you think were in the class?
I want to say like 15 or 16. It was so long ago. I just remember seeing a lot more faces and seeing a lot of those faces go away within months of starting.
Okay, and so when you say a lot, and I do know this was several years ago now, and it's hard to remember exactly, but about how many people you think ended up finishing the program, actually graduating with you?
I think there was about 10 of us that graduated. I could be wrong on that. I don't, like I said, I don't have the exact number in my head that I can remember.
Okay. Do you remember when you were talking to Mr. Stringer, the defense investigator, telling him that there was a period that it seemed like you were losing a student almost every week?
That was, yeah, in the beginning, there was probably about one person that would end up quitting about once a week.
So there were some people in the class that just thought this was just too much stress, so it just wasn't
Yeah.
for them. All right, I think that's it. Thank you. That was helpful.
All right, redirect.
No redirect, thank you.
Okay, may the witness, excuse me, may the witness be excused.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, and for defense?
Yes, thank
All
you.
right, thanks, Mr. Johnson. And Ms. Herman, who's the state's next witness?
Thank you, Your Honor. The state will call Kenneth Narkavich.
Okay.
Savage.
All right, we're gonna have you come up here to the witness box and I'll have you step up into it, but if you can stay standing for just a moment, my clerk will give you an oath.
Have you go ahead and raise your right hand. Under the penalty of perjury, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, then you may be seated, and you can go ahead and take off your mask.
All right.
And then I'll have you please state and spell both your first and last name.
My name is Ken Narkavich. My full name is Kenneth, Kenneth, Narcav as in Victor, Age.
All right, and Mr. Narkavich, there is water there if you want it.
Thank you.
And Mr. Narkavich, let's start with, did you previously work at the Oregon Culinary Institute?
Yes, I did.
And in what capacity did you work there?
As an instructor.
And so tell us either how long you worked there, or if you had worked as an instructor at one of the previous schools and came over to Oregon Culinary Institute, what your trajectory was in that capacity.
I worked at Le Cordon Bleu. I was hired, I believe, in 2000. Made my way over into OCI in 2010. And I had been there until we closed due to the pandemic.
All right. And what did you teach at Oregon Culinary, or what did that look like, and did it vary?
It varied immensely. When I was hired on, I started with the introductory classes, the T1 term of it. My background, I have a degree in business economics, and so soon thereafter, they started training me on some of the management style classes as well. But within a few years, I taught all beginning, intro, and advanced culinary classes and a few of the management classes. And so what started as a more typical schedule, AM slot, started to shift around a little more towards my latter years. So sometimes, mostly in the AM, but sometimes at night, occasionally on the weekend. Uh, and again, culinary versus management, it varied.
Okay. And so maybe you can tell me a little more about it. And what I understand is that there was a weekday morning and afternoon culinary program and then a weekend culinary program. Is that right?
Correct, yes.
Okay. And so then depending on, it sounds like depending on what term the students of each of those classes were in, that depended on what you would teach.
Exactly, yeah. And again, not always, but typically you had a term 1 and a term 2 and a term 3 running in the morning for the first half of the day. Then we would have the same thing in the evening. And then the weekend schedule, because it's only 2 days, they were longer hours for those 2 days, and they were on a separate pace, so to speak, but it was the same. You started with the term 1 and then worked to term 2 and term 3. So that's kind of how that played out.
Okay. And so for the weekend class, there was only one weekend class. Is that right? Like one group of culinary students on the weekend?
Uh, there would only be one term 1, correct? And honestly, uh, I don't believe there was ever a second culinary, a T1 and a T2 going at the same time, but there was the pastry cohort, which is to some of us a completely different beast, so to speak. So
That's what the impression I'm getting, right? Two
Yeah,
totally
right.
kind of a separate
Yeah.
program.
yeah,
And you didn't ever have any overlap in the pastry side.
no, no,
Okay. And so for the weekend class, they would go through a series of weekends through term 1, then a series of weekends through term 2, and so forth.
correct.
And do you remember, and maybe it changed, how long a term would be for the weekend program?
Off the top of my head, no. I know I could maybe figure that out, but it always seemed immensely longer because we would get done with our 4 week first half of a term, and they would still be on what seemed like day 3 and 4 on the weekends, 4 weeks into it. So it's a much longer stretched out.
Okay. And so how would it work for you, for your schedule in terms of, right? Would it be like a series of weeks or months you're teaching this schedule and then it would kind of shift? And would that depend on your availability? I imagine not everyone could move so easily.
Right. It did. We were usually being informed in advance. Hey, we're going to need someone, for a PM class or for the weekend class, and then if we could, sure, we'd start figuring out how that would play out. And obviously, or maybe not, but a lot of folks, the weekends are kind of valued for family time, so that can be a harder slot to fill. But all of my colleagues, the feel was very much everyone's supporting each other, and hey, you covered me for a while, so sure, I'll teach this next round at night or whatever it may be, even though I have kids, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Everyone's got families they want to be with, but just bounce back and forth.
And so it sounds like if you, let's say, had to pick up weekends because they needed an instructor, you could do that for the 8 or 12 weeks or whatever it was. And then once that term was done, be off weekends and rotate back into the weekday schedule.
Correct, and I did, and for me, uh, my father passed unexpectedly in 2017, and so I was more open to doing some weekends because it allowed me to take the weekdays and go support my mom in Colorado and deal with all the stuff that was going on with that. So yeah, and again, that's kind of it. Oh, hey, they're looking for it. Great, let's switch up some schedules and help others.
Okay. All right. And so then for the culinary instructors, it sounds like you obviously taught some management, which not everyone did. Did other instructors have specialties or prefer certain terms, I guess, or that skill set?
Yeah, everyone, every individual, even if you have broad-based knowledge, you you can tell this is their area of expertise, so to speak. And then some of it is, again, I could be speaking out of place with this, but I feel like with the way historically everything was structured is, hey, this is what you teach and this is what you're good at, and we all kind of did that. But we started to realize, again, just like in a regular kitchen, the advantage of cross training, so that if somebody did call in sick, you had some other instructor who knew the content, and then we just started kind of working the system that way a little bit more. But to get to your original question, yes, I mean some of us are a little more uh, empathetic, and so we're ideal placements with the beginning classes because you have people coming in who have no idea what's going on, and so it's nice to have somebody who's empathetic to that and is willing to take the time to say this is what side of the knife you hold and that kind of stuff. And yeah, that's that.
And we've heard some talk, and that point kind of feeds into this question of, it sounds like for the culinary classes that sometimes they would start out as a bigger group of students, and then by the end, perhaps some of those students didn't quite make it all the way through the program.
Yeah, yeah.
Was that a pretty consistent phenomenon?
Yeah, and I think there was some of that designed into the program. I mean, and I know that in the sense that we usually in the introductory weeks would throw quite a bit of homework at students because a lot of people think, oh, culinary school, yeah, we're going to go cook and eat, and there's a lot more to it if you're truly interested in running a business. And so, right off the bat, read these chapters, do this homework. Now we're going to do this, that, and the other. Throw tests and quizzes at them, and just so those who weren't really serious might say, hey, I'm not just going to get free food here, quote unquote free food, and then that was just part of the yeah. But beyond that, once that first week or two occurred, then you'd have you'd have individuals leave. But I feel like as a whole, our student population did kind of work their way through the system.
All right. And talking about specific instructors, did you work with Chef Dan Brophy?
Yes, yes.
And so can you tell us how you first came into contact with him and what school that was at, and then when you came back into contact, or
Sure. He was one of my instructors when I was a student. So that would have been at Western Culinary Institute in the 90s, 90, 91, 92, somewhere in there. And he was an instructor in the restaurant for me. I honestly don't recall if it was the lunch service or the dinner service, but I know that's where I met him as an individual, and then it wasn't until coming back and being hired on at Le Cordon Bleu later. When I was hired at Le Cordon Bleu, I was hired on as a management instructor. So there were instructors there who taught culinary, who were my former instructors or teachers, but I wasn't an outcast, so to speak, but again, the management department is different than everybody playing in the kitchens. You're sitting at computers and teaching math and whatnot. And so there's a few years where I was in the management world, and then eventually made my way over to teaching in the culinary world. And for me, Dan was one of those individuals because he was an instructor of mine. He was always chef. There's a number of them like that, but that's how they came into your life, and that's who they were always. So yeah. And then as we progressed into OCI, I taught classes where at times I would be teaching. He taught mostly term 2, and for example, in the AM, while one half of the class was in the kitchen, the other half was in the classroom, and there were a number of times where I was teaching one of the halves while he was teaching the other, so we were working hand in hand or side by side. And then there's a lot more there with regards to, I mean, just uh, the American Culinary Federation. There was a time where I was a member of that. I was a chair with him, and so I was back at Le Cordon Bleu. We would take groups out to the coast. We would set up events and guest lecturers and speakers for the American Culinary Federation and whatnot. So there was a lot there as well. Uh, but I'll say this about myself: just we did our thing, and then I can't say outside of work I have any major personal relationship with Dan or a lot of my colleagues. We come, we work hard, and then we leave.
So it sounds like for the colleagues that you had who had been your instructors or instructors in that time period, was there sort of maybe not a gap, but a bit of deference that was paid to those instructors in terms of they aren't maybe going to be your personal friends as someone who came up with you might be?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And then it sounds like too, there wasn't a ton of, or at least not for you, a lot of like hanging out socially outside of work with some of your fellow instructors.
Yeah, no, no.
Did you ever hang out with Chef Brophy in particular or go to an event or anything like that with him outside of work that you recall?
I know I didn't hang out with him. He was also somebody who was always on the move. As he even parked his truck by the door, so when the class was done, truck was right there, ready for him to go off and do whatever he's doing as far as gardening or whatnot. But to say if I ever went to an event or something, I can't. I mean, I can't think of anything, but there could have been, again, professionally related event, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head now.
And you mentioned field trips. It sounds like
Yeah.
perhaps those started before Oregon Culinary Institute.
Correct. Yeah.
And so what did those look like? And we'll talk specifically about once you and Chef Brophy were both instructors at Oregon Culinary Institute.
Prior to the only field trips that we participated in were through the American Culinary Federation, and it was very similar to what we ended up kind of doing at OCI. We're very lucky here in Oregon to have lots at our disposal with regards to the bounty of everything, and his knowledge of the coast and all of that and foraging. We would try at least once a year to set up a trip to the coast when we knew there were minus tides, so that you could see all the goodness in the tide pools on the coast, but also while there were mushrooms popping up in the forests along the coast. And so we would try to make an overnight run out there, do some camping, and just have him basically lead the show. Let's all listen to Dan. And for so many students, it's their first time where they're making the connection of the seafood I eat is actually right here in the soil, and these mushrooms are right here. And so it's a pretty cool experience.
And so for the field trips, and it sounds like there were several that you went on with Chef Brophy, is that right?
Yeah, and again, with the ACF, I 3 or 4 maybe over the course of a few years, but with regards to OCI, a field trip is part of the curriculum in the term 2 class. So even if it's not to the coast, we're always setting up various field trips to places around the area.
Okay, so always term 2 will go on some sort of
Right.
food-related trip.
Right, and they were popular enough that the term 1 instructors and the term 3 instructors are always trying to say, hey, I think we need a field trip added to our curriculum, because it's like making that connection for the students.
And on the trips where you were also an instructor, as was Chef Brophy, was he sort of the one that took the lead on them anyways, even if you were there?
Yeah, and again, one, because his depth of knowledge superseded just about anyone I've ever met. I've worked with a few others. And then also, as I said, he was my instructor, chef. But with that said, it wasn't, hey, we're doing X, Y, or Z. It was, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? We'd come up with it, but then usually he was able to fill in the gaps that at least I wasn't able to with regards to knowledge.
In your times with him, not at the coast, but in the forest when you're looking for mushrooms and things like that, did he have particular spots he would take you to or spots he wouldn't take you to?
Um, wouldn't take us to. For me, I was never one of. I always told students going into his class, and I would say this about a lot of instructors. The first part, they're not here to be your friends. They're here to teach you. And then with Dan, it was always. But regardless, he's a walking encyclopedia, and just suck up all the knowledge you can from him. So for me, he offered so much with regards to foraging. Getting back to that, I, I assumed he had his secret spots, but I wasn't wanting to go, hey, chef. It was like you're taking time out of your life to show and share this. This is great, and a lot of those spots I still take my kids to. So it's special stuff.
It, it sounds like you didn't see Chef Brophy much outside of school. During the times that you worked with him or were on these trips or planning sessions, did he ever talk much about his personal life?
No, not with me. Again, I'm not in general not very open about that. I've always been. I mean, I think I'm a very warm-hearted person, but pretty guarded with regards to mine, and so it's not something that would be a regular discussion with me. No.
Did he ever talk to you about his wife, Nancy Brophy, or did you know her in any capacity?
Yeah. Um, and actually, when I was a student, I know I did some contract catering work for Nancy. Um, but again, nothing, nothing out of the ordinary. Nothing that was, just as you do with, oh, there's Nancy. Hey, I'm seriously, I cannot really think of anything specific that was discussed, and I I can think of two colleagues where yes, we discussed life stuff, but other than that, and Dan's not one of those people on my end.
And did he ever talk to you? Did Chef Brophy ever talk to you about retirement or his plans for retirement or anything like that?
To me, no, no, and again, no. I mean,
All right. And um, uh, did you? So just to clarify on some of those trips, we talked about the coast trips with the forest trips and the foraging. Were those things that the students would come to as well as like part of that same coastal trip?
correct. So um, prior to weekends, the weekend program existing or coming into fruition, we are, excuse me, our field trips were something that students wanted to do, but we also understood, hey, typically class ends at 1 o'clock. We might be at the coast later. It's not required. We can figure out options for you to be on campus. But typically we would plan it with the AM instructors and the PM instructor, and we try to get everybody to go to the same place. And then once the weekend cohort started, now you're dealing with students who have classes weekdays, and the weekends are on weekends, and neither wants to give up their time going the other direction. So we would try to line it up where we would go on a Friday for the weekday class students, and then the Saturday weekend students would have theirs on Saturday, and instructors and or students could set up stuff to, the two classes wouldn't cross with regards to students, but the instructors, it was not uncommon for me to go out on a Friday and then stay on the coast just because now I'm here on a Friday afternoon, and vice versa. And that way Dan would come and be part of the Friday class field trip and then do whatever, and I would do whatever, and then on Saturday, it would be Dan's class.
Okay. And during those trips, did you go, if you went mushroom foraging at that point, would everyone just kind of go as a unit into the forest together or meet and walk?
Yeah, but I should clarify that I can't personally think in the more recent years of us doing the foraging part of it. It really became mostly focused on seafood and sea life because we could do the minus tides, and our window again to drive out there, hit 2 spots on the coast, and then cook food and have students get back into town if they had an afternoon job was pretty tight. So it was not uncommon for us to do just that, try and hit a spot where we could see some tide pools, and then move somewhere else where we might be able to do some clamming, eat food, and head on back. I reference the foraging just because and it's his knowledge and all of that has such a huge impact on me, but it's been years and years and years since I've gone into the forest with him and a class to do that.
Okay. But it sounds like you and your family will still go on occasion.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And do you ever have any significant safety concerns doing that?
For myself,
Yes.
personally,
Yeah.
sure, yeah.
Okay.
You're going into the woods. It's yeah.
Are your concerns animals or other humans?
Oh, more animals than other humans. I don't trespass and go off on other land and stuff. I'm not. Uh, I don't know. I'm not a diehard forager. It's it's nice to get my kids out or whoever and show them that look at this. There's magical stuff right here. Meaning edible. I don't mean that. I'm just saying. But it's just so many people think everything comes in plastic wrap or whatever. They just can't believe you can just find it. But beyond that, it's more finding a hornet's nest or something like that. That's a concern. Yeah.
All right. And then talking just briefly about the morning of June 2nd of 2018, were you scheduled to work at all that Saturday?
No, I was weekday instructor during that time.
And do you recall where you were, how you found out about what had happened, and if you went to the school at all?
Yeah. I was contacted I was at home. I was contacted by Woody, and my recollection that I was informed that Dan had collapsed. So I thought it was a heart attack or something like that. I believe there was a second, and again, I'm not sure if it came in one thing, but I believe it was a second one where Woody then said he had passed. And for me, I just remember being in the shower at home and then going, I gotta go. So I did drive down to the school, but when I got there, the whole block was taped off in police tape. So I knew something wasn't right. And I believe there was an officer, I'm on the sidewalk and there was an officer around, and I just said I'm a colleague. And the officer took my name. I figured I wasn't going to have access, so to speak, but they took my name and said, hey, if we have any questions or whatever, we'll get back to you. And that was it. And then I remember I was driving home and I got a text from Woody. It just said he was murdered. And then that's it. I mean, the rest is what it is. Yeah.
Thank you. And I know you said you knew Ms. Brophy somewhat. Did you talk to her at all after Dan was killed?
I don't, other than condolences, I don't believe anything beyond that. We did host some events. I had a group of students come in and make a bunch of pies for an event at the Side Yard Farm and some stuff like that, but nothing beyond that, no.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have, Your Honor.
All right. cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Is it Narkovich?
Narcavage.
Narcavage,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Um, so the trip to Tillamook that you took shortly before he died, was that a couple of weeks before?
Yeah, I looked back at my calendars, and I believe it was May 18th, May 19th. I think it's Friday the 18th, Saturday the 19th, I believe.
So 2 weekends
2
before.
weeks. Yeah,
Okay. All right. And you were teaching the weekday program at that point?
correct.
So you had the Friday group that was kind of overlapping with his class, but not
Right.
entirely?
And then we had a PM instructor teaching the T2 program as well, Randall Cronwell, and his group. His class came out as well. So there was Randall's class and my class on Friday on the coast with Dan there assisting and doing the Dan Brophy show, as we would call it, a lot of it. And then I stayed on the coast that evening, and the next day came to the tail end of Dan's class when they were prepping up. Well, they were still clamming and then starting to prep their lunch meal.
So did the school make arrangements for the teachers, the staff to stay somewhere?
No, no, and Randall, the PM instructor, he never volunteered to set up events, but he didn't like driving all the way out to the coast, and he was always complaining. And we're like, well, set up something else. We'll do it. But no, the school didn't. I mean, that was completely, an optional thing on our end. It wasn't. There was nothing tied to the school saying, hey, you're staying at this hotel. It was just, we're going out and we're gonna have you all back by whatever it was, 1 o'clock or something like that if you need to be. But hey, the coast is a great place. If there's campsites, if you as students want to then from here do your own thing, and that's how that was gonna.
Okay, so it was left up to you. Do you know where Chef Brophy stayed that weekend?
No idea.
And do you know whether he was down there Friday and Saturday or just one or
I'd
the other?
assumed. I mean, again, I don't know. I assumed he probably stayed, but I really don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then you were there for the lunch for his class before you went back into Portland, is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I still, for some reason, don't have a completely clear sense of how long the weekend terms were. I heard you saying that they seemed like they stretched on quite a bit longer than the weekday terms.
Right.
But was there a set length to the weekend terms?
There were, and I'm surprised if that information hasn't in some way, shape. And again, I'm not.
How long do you believe the weekend terms were?
Well, the week terms are. There's a multiple of 8, so I think it was a 16-week term. But I'll tell you where my confusion is with regards to just off the top of my head figuring it out. A term was 8 weeks during the week program.
The regular
weekday
weekday
Yeah,
program.
it's an
Okay.
8-week term, but within that there's 2 halves. So it's really, this is a 4-week class, and then there's the second half 4-week class. When it comes to the weekends, we would take the first half of a full term and look at that chunk and go, okay, so and so is going to teach this half of it, and so things, when you're asking for the full term, for me, it's a lot of weekends to calculate out, just
Okay.
sitting here, and I apologize, I just wasn't
Well,
sure.
at least it's not
do it.
just me.
Okay.
But you're saying it's either 12 or 16 weeks, I think, right?
Yeah,
It's longer than
and
8.
again, I'm not saying that with confidence. I'm saying that just off the cuff is what I would say. Yes.
Okay, all right, that's good enough. And you were kind of joking at the beginning about the attrition rate having something to do with the fact that some of the students come there with unrealistic expectations and think of it as free food. One other thing that I think that we just haven't heard from anybody yet is what the actual tuition was per term. Do you have a sense of what the students were paying around 2018, sort of close to the time that OCI ended up closing. Do you know what a normal terms tuition would be?
I seriously don't feel that I'm qualified to answer that with something that would be like, for example, if you were coming to me just and you had, you know, a kid who's, hey, they're really interested. What is it at OCI? I would say, let me get you in touch with someone who knows, because again, that's part of it's because I work for Le Cordon Bleu, who got themselves in a lot of trouble with stuff, and I never knew what was going on there. So that's where I've kind of drawn the line, where
You teach and
that
kind
that
of try to
that
stay.
that department is handled by someone else completely, and I understand the all of the licensing and whatnot involved in the education process. I'm here to share my knowledge here. That part I can't speak to. And again, if I had a sheet or something, I'd be happy to share it. I
Sure,
don't.
no,
Yeah,
if you weren't
yeah,
involved in it,
yeah.
you can't speak to it, that's
Yeah.
fine. All right. Do you remember talking with Detective Merrill in 2019, in November of 2019? It's a little bit more than a year, maybe a year and a half after Chef Brophy passed.
I do recall, yes, remember having a conversation with an individual on the phone. Yeah.
And do you remember him asking you some questions about Chef Brophy's relationship with Nancy Brophy?
Anything specific? No, but it wouldn't surprise me that things were asked.
Okay, let me just show you this so you've got a chance to kind of catch up. I know it's been a little bit since you talked with him.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, that fits. That definitely fits. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when he asked you about Chef Brophy's relationship with Nancy Brophy, what essentially did you tell him about what you knew?
That it was a positive relationship. Yeah, that there was nothing that I knew of there.
Okay. All right. I think I have no further questions. Let me just double check. Anything further? I think that's good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Redirect?
No redirect, thank you.
May Mr. Narkavich be excused.
Yes, Your Honor.
For defense?
Yes, Your Honor. Thanks.
All right, you can
Thank you.
step down, and thank you.
Thank you.
Who will state's next witness be?
The state will recall Detective Anthony Merrill.
Okay. Is this also for limited testimony, or is this,
It is, Your Honor.
okay. All right, and Detective Merrill, since it was at least a few days ago since you testified, we will swear you in again.
Under the penalty of perjury, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. Remove your mask, and then we will have you go ahead and state and spell your full name.
It's Anthony Merrill, Anthony, Merrill, Merrill.
All right, and you can inquire when ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Detective Merrill.
Good afternoon.
When we left off with your testimony last time, we were talking or finishing up with the discussion about the crime scene, the initial investigation where you're walking the crime scene, kind of the things that you're thinking and determining at that time. So I want to take you to after that. In fact, I want to take you to the early afternoon of June 2nd. And did you have a chance to speak with, among other people, Brian Wilkie and Paul Woody Bailey?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Is one of the purposes of interviewing them was to get an idea for some of the students, maybe some concerns that they might have had in the area, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, we felt like they were, in addition to the students, some of the best qualified people to give us any background information about the location, the school, personalities, interpersonality dynamics with the employees, all that.
Okay, and why is that important to the investigation?
Well, again, we're also trying to determine what kind of motive there may have been in this crime. We're trying to determine if there were any bad relations between Chef Brophy, any of the coworkers, students, any of the local people, residents, possibly houseless people as well.
And as part of those conversations with Mr. Wilkie and Mr. Bailey, did you also ask questions just about Dan and who he was and some of his habits and things like that?
Yes, we did. We wanted to get an idea of what Dan would do on this weekend class. What would he do? What time would he get there? What were his habits as soon as he arrived? Where would he park? How he would get in the building? What were some of his tasks and duties initially? So we could understand the layout of the crime scene and his location and relation to what he would normally do that morning.
And is that, or first of all, how is that useful to an investigation? And is it important to learn that really early on?
I believe so, yes. It helps us rule out maybe certain things or corroborate certain things. So based on, like I discussed earlier in my testimony, we're looking closely at the crime scene. Obviously, that's a big part of the investigation. We're looking at Chef Brophy's location where he was found, where he was discovered, what activities he may have been involved in right at that moment, and to see if that would match what his normal routine would be, how he made entry to the building, reasoning for why the garage door would have been left open. We were trying to gain information to help us understand why the crime scene looked as it did when he was located.
Okay. And you talked several times now about his habits and what he was expected to have been doing that morning. Based on the things that you were learning and throughout the investigation, did it look like that this was somewhat of a normal morning, habit-wise, for Mr. Brophy?
Yeah, it did based on our interviews with the administrators, the other staff member that we talked to that day, along with information we were getting from different officers who had interviewed people at the scene that day, students and so forth. It looked like he was having a normal day. He parked at the usual location on 17th Avenue, just outside the man door, if you will, to make access where the alarm code is. According to witnesses, the garage door was open initially. That appeared to be somewhat of not an unreasonable thing for Chef Brophy. The administrators made us understand that he was sort of a creature of habit and would be so focused on his job that he might not be too concerned about leaving a garage door open, for instance, and that he would move products in and out through that garage door on carts and maybe a wagon occasionally.
Okay. And you talked a little bit about how he entered through, you referenced that man door, and I know we've talked about it before. Is that the door that is that side door on 17th?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And did you receive information that afternoon that Mr. Brophy likely disabled the alarm around 7:22 a.m.?
Yes, that is either 7:21 or 7:22. Yes.
So you said another goal of yours when having this discussion with Mr. Wilkie and Mr. Bailey was to possibly identify any issues that Mr. Brophy was having, specifically with students, but I suppose also with other instructors or staff. Was there anything that they told you that was alarming to you that was something you needed to look into immediately regarding students or faculty?
No, I feel like Detective Posey and I emphasized on that subject. We focused on that with them. This was a long interview. It was like almost an hour, 50 minutes, 40 minutes, somewhere in that neighborhood, where we repeatedly asked the questions over and over. Is there any inkling of an issue with any student it doesn't matter how small, how big, you know, can you please share that with us? And they could not come up with one involving a student.
And as part of this, not just from meeting with Mr. Wilkie and Mr. Bailey, but at some point where you provided a list of students who either showed up late and were turned away, or just didn't show up at all.
Yes, we did.
Okay. And after working or with that list, what did you do with it?
There were, I believe it was approximately 4 or 5, I think 5 students that we were given names of who hadn't actually entered the scene and been contacted by police within the scene. Later, after talking to different officers, we learned that several of those students.
I'm gonna object to the hearsay.
It's for the effect on the listener and what he's doing in the portion of his investigation.
All right, so let me explain this to the jury. I'm gonna overrule the objection, but I want to make clear the question he's answering about what he learned from other people, you can't consider it for whether it's actually true or not. You can only consider it for what it caused him to do next. Go ahead.
I learned that students arrived at the scene. There was crime scene tape already was up because they possibly were late, and that they were identified and then told that you might as well just go home because it's not a good idea to come in right now. There were a couple that we didn't have information about them doing that they didn't get to the scene, and that we had detectives follow up with them and contact them and interview them on the phone.
And so with that kind of information, was that follow-up done then to contact each one of these students and to see why they didn't show up that morning?
Yeah, if they hadn't shown up at the crime scene and been turned away, we wanted to make sure we followed up with them just to find out what was going on. And again, these, from my recollection from those interviews.
Again, and I know it's gonna be the same caveat, again, I'll make the objection in terms of hearsay.
All right, and again, these things that he heard from other people, you can only consider for what it caused him to do next, not whether it's actually true. So I'm overruling the objection for now, but I do want to hear the answer before making a final ruling.
So if they had been turned away and they had arrived at the scene and been turned away, we felt comfortable that there wasn't something really very suspicious about them not appearing at all, like a student that showed up and was involved in this incident and then never showed up or never contacted us or never came to the school that morning, if that makes sense.
All right,
Okay.
I'm overruling the objection. Go ahead.
And so detective, were each one of those students actually contacted as part of this investigation?
Yeah, they were either contacted at the crime scene and turned away, or they were contacted with a follow-up interview with another detective on our case.
And so getting to the part about what this caused you to do, was there anything about those contacts with the students that either had been turned away or that had not arrived at all? Was there anything about those, you reaching out to them, that caused any investigative leads down those paths?
No.
So turning to sort of another subject that you discussed with Mr. Wilkie and Mr. Bailey that you had mentioned, which was your concern that, was the school or students or faculty having any issues with maybe some transients in the area or just any person in the area. Did you discuss that also with Mr. Wilkie and Mr. Bailey?
Yes, we did. We were there basically gathering information from them. They know the area. They've been working there for years, and we assumed that they'd be able to tell us if there's specifically a person that was a threat to Chef Brophy. And we also asked for anything else, anybody that just is around that could be suspicious in a way or just hanging out in the area. And what they concluded, my memory of the responses we got were there, I think it was a total of 2 different individuals that they talked about that were, they assumed houseless people that lived in the area. One was described to me as an African-American male with, he was thin with dreadlocks and blonde tips on the dreadlocks, that he had been a frequent person in that area, and that something had occurred over by the Starbucks on Southwest Jefferson Street months before this incident, where police contacted OCI staff and asked if they see him to try to contact the police, that they were investigating something involving an incident that occurred. I believe it occurred over at the pizza place is what they decided, is what they told me, what they recalled. Tom Bethel in particular remembered this subject, said he hadn't seen him there in the area for about the last 2 months. Said the last time he contacted him, he tried to call the police, and the officer who had put out the flyer was not working that day. And he was told to call back later during that officer's shift. Mr. Bethel then said he felt like he'd done his due diligence by calling the police, and then he just went.
Again, I'm gonna object regarding the hearsay.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's the same response, Your Honor. All this is leading up to why the detective took the next steps in the investigation to either track down these people or look for them on video, to how he's, it's the next step, so.
And I know I've said it twice already, but I just want to make sure it's really clear, because a lot of times you hear witnesses talk about what some other witness is saying to them. This can only be considered for what it caused Detective Merrill to do next. You can't consider it for whether or not it's true, for example, that this person hadn't been there in the last 2 months. It's solely for what it caused the detective to do next. So with that direction, I'll overrule the objection.
Do you want to continue with that?
Yes, please.
Mr. Bethel told us he confronted that individual when he saw him and told him, hey, the police are looking for you. That individual, he said, told him, hey, I already talked to the police. It's all good.
No, it's double hearsay, and I'll make the same objection. I know it's only for the officer's state of mind, but I feel like I need to object for the record.
No, that's fair. I have no issue with it. It's subject to the same limitation, but I will overrule the objection for that limited purpose.
So he never saw him again. He said the last time he saw him was that 2 months prior to this incident when he had that interaction with him.
Okay, so that's one person.
Right. There was another subject that was mentioned, described as an African-American male, late 30s to 40s, thin, maybe 6 foot with short hair, who hung out in the area of OCI, students would smoke cigarettes towards the front student entrance area over off to the side there. And they mentioned that the subject would hang around and try to get cigarette butts from people or pick them up off the ground and smoke them. And he appeared to live in the area and maybe was houseless. And I believe it was mentioned that he had been seen maybe a couple days before this incident. At the conclusion of all this, again, we're asking, is there a threat to Chef Brophy? Is there a reasonable, some incident that you can tell us about these subjects that posed a threat to Chef Brophy or any other staff or students here, or do you think could be related? And at the end of this, after going through all these different scenarios of these two subjects, I believe it was Tom Bethel that basically said, I can never imagine either of these two being involved or having a gun. Maybe they would have like a street person type weapon, I don't even know if he said it, but I thought he might have said like a pocket knife, but he said he couldn't imagine him ever having a gun or having access to a gun.
So with that information, and are you thinking that these are potentially people that you're going to need to try to track down and interview?
I felt like while we're canvassing and in that area, I definitely would talk to them if I found them or came across them, or if I saw them in the video running from the front door of OCI, I would definitely think this is something we need to further the investigation into. I don't recall seeing anything like that in our video surveillance. Through our own investigation, we developed another subject of interest by speaking to people in the area as we were continuing to canvass for video and canvass for witnesses in that area. We were at that crime scene approximately almost till 7 p.m. that night. Detective Posey and I were the last ones to leave with a criminalist. when another student showed up later that day and was having a vigil. He was intoxicated and he was extremely upset about what happened to Chef Brophy, and he just wanted to introduce himself to us. He was there at about 7 or just before 7 p.m., right before we cleared. The reason I bring that up is during that whole entire time frame where we have police covering, you know, a couple blocks radius with crime scene tape, we were there with police cars, police tape, police all around the perimeter. And a lot of times, if there's witnesses or people with information that'll help us in investigation, they'll come right up to us and flag us down or tell us, hey, I think I saw something. And we had officers sitting on that perimeter since the morning upon their arrival that were canvassing people as they were leaving all the apartments, driving away, documenting license plates, asking if they saw anything. And they did not get any people to say that they saw or heard anything suspicious. Detective Posey and I remained in that area for several consecutive days, walking around, canvassing for video, asking if there were other witnesses, anybody that could help further the investigation or talk about any suspicious subject that could have been in the area that could have been related to this incident, including the Collins Circle apartments, which are right off Southwest Jefferson Street between 17th and 18th. The Tanner Flats apartments a little further to the west off Jefferson Street, the Jefferson Plaza apartments, the Legend condos. And I know from talking and being debriefed by officers at the crime scene that people on the perimeter, as I said, were interviewing people leaving the apartments and condos from that area, and nobody flagged them down about anything relevant to our investigation.
And part of that canvassing, besides video, I think, and we'll talk about that more specifically, but in canvassing this area, did you also talk to transients in the area?
We did. Detective Posey and I both talked to a gentleman named Oscar Taylor, who we learned about, incidentally, from the potluck business. We learned about Oscar Taylor being a subject that was a houseless male living in the area, camping out in the area. We saw him on the video. We believed it was him. It matched his description after comparing Oscar Taylor to the video to a mugshot we had of him. And we later, we'd been looking for him. We later found him several weeks after this incident. And he was actually in a totally different area of Portland on the east side. And Detective Posey and I were working on something else. And Detective Posey saw him and recognized him. And so we went and talked to him, asked him about staying over there. We interviewed him about this incident. He said he had no idea what happened that morning. He didn't have anything to do with OCI. He said he never went over there for any reason. He said that he would camp in the area off I think he referred to it as sort of a porch area, a potluck. And he said there was another male, a white male, that was spending the night there that morning that he remembered. He said he got into a confrontation with another person at potluck, I believe, and he ended up walking away. And I recall Detective Posey and I reviewing video and seeing him leaving the area in a westward direction during the time frame we believe the incident might have occurred.
And in fact, when reviewing that video and looking for somebody that you believe to be this Oscar Taylor individual, did he actually leave the area before Dan arrived downtown?
That was my recollection. I remember at some point he was, it looked like he was collecting recyclable like cans. He had a recycling bin that he was seen on video with. And at some point, I think it was prior to Chef Brophy's arrival, he's seen going westbound on Jefferson away from 17th. That was one subject. There was another subject that I had direct interaction with. I recall during the canvass trying to get video from the Goose Hollow bar that's located over there. I can't remember the name of it, but it's Bud Clark's old bar that's right off Southwest Jefferson and I believe 19th Avenue. I talked to his daughter, Sophia Clark. She had mentioned having an interaction early that morning between 7:30 to 8. She lived right off. She actually lives around the corner from there between Main and Madison. on Southwest 18th Avenue. So basically about a block to the west and to the north. She said she encountered an African American male, very slender, about 5'4", wearing a reggae hat, appeared houseless, holding a broomstick or some sort of a stick, and was standing in her front yard when she woke up that morning. She told him to leave the area, and he did. That was June 4th, I believe, when I had that interaction with her, interviewed her. I was back the following day. Detective Posey and I were continuing our canvassing and talking to people, and I found a subject that looked exactly like the description she gave me just across the street. There's an animal veterinarian clinic at the corner of Southwest 18th and Madison. And I had interviewed them for video. And then as I was walking away, I saw in an alcove, it's like a little dead end hallway that's just attached to the back of their building, this male subject that was very consistent with what Miss Clark described the man as. I talked to him. He gave me his name. I interviewed him about this incident. I identified myself as a police detective that was investigating the homicide at OCI. He was cooperative. He didn't give me any. He was said he had no information about the incident and didn't know anything about it.
So after you spend days canvassing this area and speaking with, it sounds like a lot of people, and obviously reviewing maybe other officers' police reports about their interactions, are you developing any leads that are helping you in this investigation? And again, besides the video, are you developing any leads in this investigation at that point?
No.
Now, I think you already mentioned this, but you said one of the things you're looking for in the video is somebody possibly running from the area, especially one of these people that maybe fits a description of what some of these witnesses may have given you.
Mm-hmm.
In reviewing that video, do you see anything like that? Do you see any furtive movements of any sort in the area around the Oregon Culinary Institute?
No.
And just as part of your training and experience, whether it be from your police officer days, your patrol officer days, or as a detective, have you investigated a lot of crimes committed by transients?
Yes.
And leading up to 2018, what would you say is the probably most common weapon that a transient uses when committing crimes?
I mean, I would say I've had a high percentage of cases where they use their hands, fists, or feet, or maybe an immediately readily available object like maybe a pocket knife, a tool, a bottle, something like that.
And specifically when it comes to your experience with the transient population, is it your belief that they'd be more likely to carry a gun or a knife?
Before 2018, before this incident, from my experience, I would say usually more, percentage-wise, more something other than a gun, something like a pocket knife or some sort of tool or something of that nature, maybe.
Okay. Given what you were seeing at the scene, the lack of disruption of the scene, the lack of what appeared to be a robbery, as I believe you said, and I mean, in your mind, at this point in the investigation, as you're learning this stuff, are you thinking that it's really possible that a transient came in with a Glock 9mm and murdered Chef Brophy?
Again, when looking at that scene, seeing no defensive injuries on Chef Brophy, seeing everything of value in place, including $77 in cash on this person, a cell phone, a wallet with credit cards, all things that I would think, normally would be something of value for somebody to take and have a motive to come in and shoot somebody, what I believe the way it looks in the back, and then shoot them in the chest to finish them off. It didn't look like a transient would have come in and done something like
I
that.
would object. This calls for speculation, and it calls for a conclusion that's inappropriate in this case.
I'm going to sustain that. I'll ask the jury to disregard that last commentary and ask you to ask a different question.
Understood. And actually, Your Honor, I plan to change subjects. I don't know if you would like to take our afternoon break now before I change subjects, or I can continue.
Um, uh, give me a rough estimate of how long you think his direct testimony will go. Rough estimate.
I believe his direct, because we plan on listening to audio that's about 45 minutes long.
Oh,
I believe
okay.
his direct testimony will likely take us up to 5 o'clock.
Oh, okay, all right. Let's, in that case, even though we haven't been on the record as long as we normally would, let's take our afternoon break now, and let's plan to be on the record fairly close to 3:45.
All rise for the jury.
All right, please be seated. And Mr. Overstreet, if you want to continue.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor.
Yes.
Okay, Detective Merrill, we put a board up on the easel that states Exhibit 96. I want to talk to you about those markings and the labels that are on that map. Have you seen this map before?
I have, yes.
As you've mentioned a couple of times, I think that one of the main parts of the investigation is canvassing the area for video. I know we've seen this is the first satellite view of the map, so if you could, with that pointer, help us get oriented on what we're looking at and point to the Oregon Culinary Institute.
Sure. There's the Oregon Culinary Institute right here.
Okay. And you can go ahead and take a seat.
Okay.
And so you talked a lot about the canvassing, as I said. Did that canvassing really go even outside of this view that we're seeing here?
Yes, it did.
Okay. And so I want to talk about each one of these videos, or actually locations, on specifically the Goose Hollow westbound platform is what the label says there. Did you collect video from that location?
Yes, I did.
Did you, in fact, collect two separate videos, one looking east and one looking west?
Yes.
And did you also collect video from the First United Methodist Church there on the lower left?
Yes.
Okay. And could you describe the view from that video?
Yes. As you can see, is it okay to
Yeah,
point?
if you could use the
Okay.
pointer, that'd be great.
As you can see, the location here of the church, it's adjacent to the circle. And so it would film in a sort of an angle to the north and maybe just a little bit to the east. So sort of an angle video that way.
Okay.
So you can see cars coming around the circle.
Okay. And sticking with that sort of directionality that somebody would possibly travel, could you tell us where the East Side Deli looks like it's the most north video we have on this map, and what direction that video is filming as well?
So the East Side Deli had a couple of cameras. They were both inside the business, and they had large windows on the front of the business,
Okay.
and I believe on the corner. So these cameras, would show basically an angle facing sort of the opposite of the First United Church, but adjacent right to the circle here, where it comes and meets 18th Avenue here.
Okay. And you sort of have two of those views kind of in a sort of V pattern maybe?
Correct. They're pretty close together to one another. It's a motion activated system.
And then dropping down to Bellagio's there, I know you've talked about Bellagio's a little bit being across and a little west of OCI.
Yes.
Could you point to the direction of that video as well?
Yes. So again, similar to the East Side Deli, the Bellagio's has, I believe it's 2 cameras as well, maybe 1 actually. But the camera's inside the business and it points out north directly at traffic that's going by on Jefferson.
Okay. And then if you could go to the right a little bit to the Starbucks video, did you collect 2 separate videos from there as well?
Yes.
And could you kind of describe the direction of those videos?
Similar to Bellagio's, where it's there's cameras inside that face out their windows towards Jefferson Street.
Okay. And then could you describe the affinity management video that we see to the right of the Starbucks?
Yes, so the Affinity is back between just off 16th Avenue and Jefferson. The building takes up sort of an L shape here, and there's a camera on their parking lot facing to the north towards Jefferson as well.
Okay. And is that the video that we previously saw a clip of showing Sadie Damon entering the area towards OCI?
Yes, it was.
And then what about the PGE video? Could you describe the direction of that video?
Yes, the PGE camera was an elevated camera from my memory. It's affixed to something that has it elevated. And that camera films back towards 17th Avenue on an angle. So back from like, there's the camera and on that type of angle. So you can see vehicles coming eastbound on Columbia. And if they turn north on 17th Avenue from Columbia.
And then finally, the KGW label there. Did you collect 2 videos from that location as well?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And could you describe the angles of those videos?
Sure. Again, this was a motion activated system, KGW here, 2 cameras, one faced on an angle towards the east and south, and it would actually pick up traffic that was coming across the overpass westbound on Jefferson. And there was also a camera that filmed directly in front of KGW, covering, filming to the south, Southwest Jefferson Street.
And I think I asked you on every single one of them, but just to be clear, you did collect video and have reviewed video from every single one of these locations.
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
You can go ahead and take a seat.
Okay.
And Your Honor, the state would move to admit exhibits 10, 11, 12, 13, 15, 16, 17, and 18. And I can read that a list again.
You said 10, 11, 12, 13, 15, 16, 17, 18?
Yes.
Any objections?
Your Honor, I think that our understanding is that we don't object except with respect to the timestamps.
Sure.
Okay, all right. So there's an understanding that the timestamps are not part of the exhibit?
Well, they're part of the exhibit insofar as that they are affixed to the video. The agreement between the parties was that our own individual people, whoever is testifying to the video, would explain any time discrepancies that we see.
Okay, all right. Then those exhibits will be admitted with that understanding.
And Detective, we'll get a chance to view these videos later. We're really just talking about the collection of the video. And so when you reviewed this video, in every single one of these that we've referenced here, actually, let me back up a little bit. I'm going to talk about the Bellagio's video first. Is that the video that you first viewed?
Yes, that was the video we first viewed that morning at the crime scene area.
Okay.
Yes, nearby.
And what in that video did you see that caught your attention?
Well, we had just contacted and did a family notification with Nancy Crampton-Brophy that her husband had been killed. We did about a 40-minute interview with her, maybe 50 minutes. Following that interview, we requested if she would like assistance driving home, and she accepted, and we had detectives assist her with driving her home, and we saw her van that was parked over at the potluck in the park just across the street from OCI at 17th and Jefferson.
And I don't mean to cut you off, Detective, I just want to make sure I understand. You're saying that you personally got a chance to view the van that Miss Brophy had arrived in at the OCI, and
Yes.
then what she had left in being driven by another detective?
Yes, I talked to the detective. Detective Broughton was there, and I watched him escort her to the van to drive her home.
Okay, so you personally got to view this minivan that Miss Brophy had.
Yes.
When you're watching the Bellagio's video, what is it that you noticed?
So in the Bellagio's video, we were watching for anything that was going to stand out. Again, trying to see if somebody's running away or something of that nature. But the first thing that we saw that kind of surprised us is we saw what looked just like Nancy Crampton-Brophy's van driving westbound on Southwest Jefferson Street early that morning. I was surprised because we had just interviewed her for a lengthy period of time where she told us in specific detail about waking up at a certain time. She didn't sleep well. So she woke up when Dan was getting a shower and she was alert in bed, and saw him get dressed and then leave for work at about 7:05 to 7:10 a.m.
Okay. And do you recall the times in which you saw Miss Brophy's van, or what you believed to be Miss Brophy's van, in the Bellagio's video?
Yes, after factoring in that the video was 3 hours fast, I think it was on East Coast time zone, the first The earliest time it was seen, the van was seen on that video was 7:08 approximately a.m. And then there was a second time where we saw the van drive by, again, the same direction, westbound on Jefferson, at approximately 7:28 a.m.
And you had stated earlier that you learned that Mr. Brophy had disabled the alarm at about 7:22 a.m.
Correct.
That you said as you're watching this, it made you think of that interview or that death notification. That death notification occurred just prior to you reviewing this Bellagio's video?
That's correct.
Okay. And that was recorded?
It was recorded, yes.
Okay. And in the recording, are you the only one asking or talking to Mrs. Brophy?
Detective Posey's present as well.
Okay. And where does that death notification take place?
Just down the street, half a block, approximately, maybe a block from Nancy Crampton-Brophy's van where she was parked. So we're on 17th Avenue between Madison and Jefferson. And we have a gold-colored van dedicated to homicide that's equipped with, there's no windows in the back, so it's sort of a box van equipped with tables and chairs inside so you can conduct a confidential interview with somebody. So the interview took place inside the van with Miss Brophy's consent to record it, and we did the family notification. So again, that had just happened. The reason I say I'm surprised to see the van driving by on Bellagio's at this time frame is we were almost kind of like, is this video incorrect or do we have something wrong? So we kept having to check, and then we had our video person, I believe it was Officer Aaron Sparling, confirm that it was a 3-hour offset because the video was, the timestamp was fast by 3 hours.
And just from your own being out there, were you able to look, say, at like your cell phone and compare it to the timestamp and determine yourself that it was off by 3 hours?
Yes.
Okay. And just real briefly before we listen to that death notification, did you also determine that the East Side Deli videos were off on their timestamp?
Yes, it was 3 hours, approximately 3 hours fast too.
Okay, so kind of the same thing. It looks like it was set to East Coast time or something.
Yes.
Okay. And then just one more, that affinity management video, did you determine that one was off as well?
Yes, that one was, initially when I reviewed it, I was doing that personally myself with the owner of the business, sitting down with him at his computers. And I estimated that it was approximately 11 minutes fast at that time. Now going back and looking further in detail and trying to compare the video timestamps, it appears that it might be about 12, a little over 12 minutes fast, maybe 12 and a half minutes fast.
Okay. So if somebody said that it was 12 and a half minutes fast, you would agree with that?
I would believe that's consistent, yes.
Okay. So we're going to go ahead and play.
The video.
I'm just gonna do some introduction.
Yeah, go ahead.
Detective Posey, and we're here also with.
Okay, Detective, do you recognize this audio?
Yes, that's Detective Posey talking right now.
Okay, and is this the recording of that death notification with Miss Nancy Brophy
Yes.
on June 2nd, 2018?
Yes, it is.
Okay, we'll go ahead and play it.
I'm just gonna do some introductions, so that it's all on the tape and everything. So I'm Detective Posey, and we're here also with Detective Merrill, and we're here with Nancy. And your last name, Nancy?
Brophy.
Okay. And today's date is June 2nd, 2018, and it's approximately, 10:47 a.m. So Nancy, I know that I think some people kind of notified you that something was going on.
Just what they heard on the news.
Oh, okay. So it's already been on the news.
KGW said that there was a shooting, there was one fatality, and that the police showed up at 8:30, or they called at 8:30, I don't know.
I see. Okay. So, Dan is your husband, is that correct?
Uh-huh.
And his name's Daniel.
C for Craig Brophy.
Oh, okay. And what time did he leave this morning from your guys' place? I'm assuming that he was at your house.
No, he was. He left, I'm going to say 7-ish. I mean, maybe 7:05, but somewhere in there. That's about the time he normally leaves.
Okay. Anything different this morning coming to work? Any kind of different?
We had a leak in our bathroom under the sink, and so we were dealing with that. But that was a different part.
Right. Were you guys up earlier this morning or anything?
He's up early every morning.
He's an early riser.
And he is, and he has his little list of things he does. You know, he walks the dogs, he feeds the chickens, he does that kind of stuff.
Okay. Where do you guys live at?
Beaverton.
Oh, okay.
We're in unincorporated Washington County.
Oh, okay. So you guys got a little bit of property or something?
About a half an acre.
Oh, neat. Okay. So, so he probably left at the latest maybe 7:05 this morning?
Yeah.
Okay. And usually how long does it take him to get here?
Well, on Saturdays there's no traffic. On most Saturdays, you know. So I would say 10 minutes from our house, tops.
Okay.
You know, I think it's like 5.5 miles.
Oh, okay.
So,
And do you know, or are you familiar with kind of how he does things when he comes to the location here? Like, is there anything in particular that that you're familiar with as far as, you know, what you know that is kind of his schedule of things that he does when he shows up here at work?
No. What I know is he comes in and he talks on the cards. He has 2 cards he brings in on the weekends, and or maybe he brings them in on Friday and takes them home on Saturday. And it's stuff he canned and spices and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and it's in small enough quantities that if you're a starving student, you can buy, you know, a little patch of saffron rather than paying.
Yeah, right, exactly.
A lot of money.
Yeah, just what you need.
Right.
And when was he last here, besides this morning, when was the last time that he came in?
I would guess yesterday morning to set up the cart.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know if he came down for any other reason during the week. I mean, he kind of comes and goes on his own. I know where he's working when. Yeah.
Okay. But so he may have been here yesterday in the morning.
Yes, but it would have been early.
Okay.
It would have been really early.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. And is he typically the first person that opens up in the morning?
No, Yadu is.
Yadu?
Yadu, why?
On Saturdays?
Yeah.
Or on Sundays?
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, I assumed it was. I think Yadu gets here in the middle of the night. You know, because it seems to me like Yadu is always here.
Oh, okay. And that's the cleaning guy, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And you know who he is. You met him before. Okay.
I know all these guys. I mean, this is the part you missed of the conversation. Dan's worked here for 12 years, maybe 13. Before that, he worked with the same group of guys over at Western. I mean, we've known these people for 25 years.
Right. You guys he's involved with the culinary kind of community, so to speak. Right. Is there, was there any kind of issues with Yadu or any kind of issues with anybody at the school?
You know how Dan is not hail-filled or well met. I mean, we had no communication issues. I'm not trying to make it sound that way, but he's not a chatter. You know, he has a level of bullshit that's pretty low, and he just does not have, he doesn't, if we have a dinner party, he likes to cook, so he doesn't have to have that level of bullshit.
Oh, I see.
So, I mean, but if you get on a topic he cares about, he's got opinions, and he'll voice it. We did a culinary tour in Oaxaca This must have been 2003. And we did this culinary tour, and we were with these same people for 13 days. And at the end of the 13 days, I don't notice he's quiet, but somebody said, you know, I didn't think your husband ever spoke. And I thought, he talks all the time. But they didn't see it that way. And so here's the other thing. He doesn't harbor grudges. I mean, he truly doesn't harbor grudges. When he first went to work at Western Culinary, God, I'm gonna have to tell you stories here. There was another chef that really disliked him, but the other chef was leaving, and they came around and said, well, he's leaving, and Dan threw him $5 for whatever they were collecting money.
Right.
And whoever was collecting it was really surprised that, I thought you guys didn't like each other. Dan said, he's just a guy with a different opinion than mine. And he just never, in 25 years of teaching, I have never heard him badmouth a student one time. Ever. And you know,
So there's not any specific like things that you know about that.
Right.
There's no, you know, like he was like, oh man, this person's really got it out for me, or
No.
none of that kind of.
and that wouldn't be how he thought anyway.
Okay.
You know, Dan kind of is his own little world. God, that makes him sound incompetent. He's not. He's not.
No, I know. So I just want to let you know that, you know, we believe, you know, Dan, we believe it's Dan that has been killed. Okay.
Yeah, I kind of got that when everybody gave me the sad sack look. Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's our job to figure out what happened, and that's why we're talking to you.
Oh, sure.
Because you're part of the story, right? Of
Right.
what took place, and so I just want to be, you know, straightforward and frank with you.
Good.
Is there anybody that you know of that wanted to do something to this to Dan? Everybody I've heard from so far is like, Dan's a nice guy.
He is a nice guy.
You know, and students seem to like him and everything. So you know, that's the question. It's like, why
He's
would
not a
somebody do
rabble
something?
rouser. I mean, he is. You know, he just. It took me 4.5 years to convince him to marry me. You know, I mean, you know,
He doesn't move real fast on things.
No, you know, he is. But we had a great marriage.
Okay.
But the only people I know who have ever hated him was his ex-wife, and whose ex-wife doesn't hate the husband.
Right.
You know, and I can't believe after 25 years she'd be motivated.
Okay.
You know, so yeah, I mean, short of that,
All right.
we live a quiet life.
Okay. What's the name of the ex-wife?
Perla, and I'm not sure what name she's going by. It's her last name, Perla.
Oh, Perla is her last name.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And
Yeah.
what's her first name?
That is her person. I'm sorry, Perla, maybe Brophy, maybe Stillwater, maybe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know what she's going by.
Gotcha.
But I can tell you this. Dan would have told
But that
me.
was like 25 years
Yeah.
ago. Okay.
And we saw her 2 years ago when Nathaniel, his son, got married,
Okay.
and they didn't speak, but you know, nobody drew a knife either.
You're right. Yeah.
You know.
It was cordial.
It
As
was
far as
distant.
yeah. Okay. But that was the last time that you know of that.
That's the only time that he's seen her in 20 years, maybe.
Okay.
So I don't think that's an issue.
Okay. And kids,
That's Nathaniel.
and that's the only kid that
And that's-
he has through her.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Any issues there?
Oh, no.
Okay.
Oh, no, Nathaniel's
Did
great.
you guys have any?
Oh, no.
Okay.
Nathaniel's worked for me.
Oh, okay.
No, Nathaniel's great. He's happily married to Kate. They have a 6-year-old child that Dan and I adore. And Kate's pregnant. We're all excited. So we're going to have a second grandchildren. I've got signs all over the house. Quit fooling around, Nathaniel. I want grandchildren myself. I don't have signs. I'm not that.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're just trying to figure out what, you know, and that's why I'm asking
Sure.
some of these kind of questions.
Can you
and
tell me
stuff.
what happened, as far as you know?
He was shot.
with an AR-15?
No, I don't know what he was shot with.
Oh,
But he was shot with a gun. Why do you say AR-15?
because school shootings are all
Oh, no.
AR-15s now.
It happened, as far as I know, and I would ask that you keep this between us. You know, at some point when he showed up here this morning, and so
But they didn't call. Where was Shadu? Why didn't they call the police
well,
before then?
that's what let's see. That's information that we're trying to kind of sort all of this out. I don't
Where
know.
was the other instructor? He doesn't teach alone.
Yeah, I know. The other instructor showed up after and found him. So that's what we're trying to sort out.
He was alone.
And that's why I'm kind of asking a little bit about, you know, what
Sure.
were some of his, you know, typical things that he would do in the morning. Did you ever accompany him coming into in here?
A couple of weeks ago,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 4, I was meeting a client in Washington, and they called me before I got there and said that I sell Medicare, and so it was somebody who needed help, but she wasn't feeling well, so they called and canceled. So I came back here and used the bathroom. But other than that, I wasn't paying a whole lot of attention to what are you doing.
Was he here by himself or with somebody?
I thought Yadu was here, but maybe not.
Was that a Saturday or a Sunday? Okay. All right. Got any questions?
Yeah. Just to make sure I got that last point, you said you came here just like a couple weeks ago just to use the restroom when your meeting was canceled?
Yeah, maybe 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
And I came and I went to the bathroom and I left. It wasn't that exciting. It's just faster than going to McDonald's.
Gotcha. So you didn't see
I didn't
where
see
Dan
him.
was or what he was up to? Did you say hi to him or anything that time?
I said, well, he opened the door for me.
Okay.
So the doors would be locked.
Okay.
The doors would all be locked. How did somebody else come in?
That's what
That's
we're
what
working
we're working on.
So I was going to ask you, does Dan own any kind of guns at all, or does he carry a gun at all for any reason? For protection or
Okay,
anything?
you're going to be so embarrassed. I'm kind of embarrassed. After the Marjorie Douglas Stoneman shooting in February,
After which one?
the one in February in Florida,
Yeah, in Florida.
we talked about it, and I had kind of surveyed people, and everybody we know owns a gun except us. And I said, maybe we ought to buy a gun. And he said, okay. And so there was a gun show, and I went down and bought a gun. But here's the weird thing. When I got it home, I'm going to turn this off if you don't
Okay,
care.
thank you.
When I got it home, I realized
I don't know your home address.
Oh, hush.
Tap your name if you'd like to add it.
But I apparently skill level isn't me.
Oh, it's okay too. It's fine.
Okay, so I bought this gun. I got it home. We looked at it, and neither one of us wanted it. And so it's still on my closet shelf, and it still has that little plastic band around the shooter thing.
Yeah.
The shooter thing. There's a name for this.
Yeah.
And because we've never even bought bullets for it, you know.
Okay.
So yeah,
Is
we
it
have
a pistol or is it a
It's a
rifle?
Glock,
Okay.
and
It's a handgun.
it's a handgun. Yeah, it's not an AR-15.
It's not a rifle.
No.
It's a small gun.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it's at home.
So it sits at home. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't even know how to get rid of it because Oregon has a law against, I'm not a gun dealer, so I can't sell it, you know? So that was what we were talking about. What did we do to get rid of
I
it?
see.
But
So why did you guys decide against having it? Because you just didn't, when you looked at it, it didn't...
it was heavy. Do you know
it's
how,
kinda
well, of course, you know
scary.
how heavy a gun is.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no,
it
it's
was
okay.
heavy and it felt terrible
Yeah.
handling it. It was like, it was just,
Just wasn't something you guys did?
no.
Yeah.
And real frankly, I couldn't imagine ever needing it. I mean, you kind of lived through 67 years and you think, well, I'm kind of there, you know.
But Dan never took it out or brought it with him to school or anything. It's locked up at home still. As far as
I'm sure. I'm sure it is.
And would you guys keep it in like a box that you get? Did you guys get a gun box with it?
It came with a case.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think it's still in the plastic bag we bought it in.
And what caliber is it? Do you know like you know how they have a 40 millimeter, 9 millimeter, 40 or 45
9
caliber?
sounds right. 9 sounds
Maybe a
right.
9? Okay.
And it's
So
ugly.
yeah, is it all black?
Yeah.
Okay. And so when you guys got that back in February after the school shooting in
Right.
Florida, was Dan a little? You said you got that because you're talking to maybe that's something for safety for Dan here at the school,
No.
or just in
No,
general?
we just felt like we were. Honest to God, I work with a bunch of writers. I'm a writer too, and I work with all these writers, and everybody has a gun. Even my mother-in-law has a stun thing, and I'm thinking we're the only people in the world who don't have a gun. And I started kind of doing a survey, and it started around Thanksgiving because the family's all together, and everybody has guns but us. And I'm thinking, well, maybe we're wrong, but we got it and we weren't wrong, you know.
Okay.
As far as Dan's phone,
Yes.
does he? Do you know what his password is?
Yes.
Okay. Can we have that?
987-987-7600.
And what kind of phone does he have?
It's
Is
the
it like
same.
yours?
It's
It's an Apple.
exactly like mine.
Okay. All right.
Which kind's yours? Apple,
Apple.
iPhone,
6.
iPhone 6.
Okay.
So you guys have the same account together?
Yes.
And what's his phone number?
503-701-5427. My number's very similar. I have to think about it.
Okay. Did he send you any text messages or
I texted
calls?
him, and that was part of the reason why
When did you text him?
after Maxine called me.
Oh, okay.
Maxine called me, and I texted him, and when I didn't get a response, everything in me said, this isn't right. This isn't right. And so I came down.
And who's Maxine?
Maxine is a teacher who teaches here
Oh,
on
okay.
Sundays. Maxine Borcherdine.
Okay.
And I think she teaches a wine class.
Oh, okay. What did your husband usually teach?
God, he's taught for 25 years.
I mean, was there any particular?
He taught T2. T2.
Oh, okay.
So the segments are broken into 4 T's. And the first one is kind of get to know your knives, you know, learn stuff. His was on basic cooking. Was on, they had live fire, which was, you know, you're in a restaurant, essentially, and you have to fire 5 entrees within a certain amount of time, and light fire was kind of the nightmare day.
Right, because there's a lot of people trying to do stuff, and right.
But he's a fun instructor. I mean, he did things like he would take the class to the course. He would take his class to the coast for a negative tide, and he would do a negative intertidal. He took a mushroom hunting. They went to the salt place down on the coast. You know, he was a fun guy, and he was really nice. He really didn't dislike anyone.
What was his schedule for the current session that he was teaching? My understanding is working Saturdays and Sundays.
Yes.
Okay. What was he do? Does he do anything in the rest of the week?
We have a friend, Tanya Midland, and she is about a year and a half ago. She's at Avamere Rehab, and she was desperate for a weekend cook at that point. And Dan said, "I'll come in and help out," and he just continued to be on the schedule ever since. And so, usually 2 days a week, but for some reason right now he's working a little more there.
Oh, okay.
And sometimes it's morning, sometimes it's evening. I've got a schedule written out.
Oh, okay.
So.
At some point, maybe you could get that to me.
Sure.
On my business card there is my email address.
Perfect. I'll send it
If
to
you
you.
can email that scheduled to me just so I have
It's
I have it.
basically Thursday nights, Friday nights, but there's a couple of random days. And so he goes in at 2 and he's off by 7.
Okay. So it's short little.
Yeah.
He's teaching a class and.
No, he's truly cooking.
Oh, he's cooking. Oh, okay.
Uh-huh.
Gotcha.
And I think he enjoys it because he doesn't for me, he gets to cook again.
And where was that place that he was cooking at?
It's on Allen Boulevard at Lombard.
Okay. And what's the name of it?
Lombard. It's Avamere Rehab.
Avamere Rehab. Okay.
And
It's a restaurant.
It's a rehab.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a
facility.
rehab facility.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
And what's it, Admo Beer? Is that what you said?
Avamere. Avamer.
Okay. Admo
Okay.
Do you want Tanya's phone number?
Sure.
Yeah.
What's your phone number first?
503 701 5612.
Thank you. It's Tanya Medlin.
Yeah. And the reason why I hesitated there is I've known her since she was Tanya Glowa, and sometimes I have to stop and think my friends all changed their names at one point or another in their lives.
Okay. I texted that in for the Aaron, but he hasn't gotten back to me. But
Let's just answer this and move along. Okay. Tanya. Contacts. Tanya. Here, come on, Nancy, you can do this. Here we go. 503 1384.
thank you. Do you have a second if I ask a question?
No, go ahead.
Oh, I didn't know if you were still on.
No.
Okay. Just another question. What kind of vehicles do you guys drive? You guys each have your own vehicles?
He
or-
has a white truck that's out here,
Okay.
and it's a Toyota 2010 pickup. It's a Tacoma,
Oh, okay.
and I have a Toyota van.
Like a minivan?
No, yeah,
Right,
yeah.
Okay.
A Sienna,
A Sienna, okay. What color is that?
gray.
Okay. And what year is that one? Roughly?
2007.
Got it.
They're both paid for, and there's a point where you'd rather drive an older car that's paid for than
That's the way I would do
payments.
it. Yep. And I was going to ask you, when you said Dan woke up, he's an early riser, has his routine, walks the dog, feeds the chickens. So this morning, did you wake up at the same time or after him, or how'd that go?
I didn't sleep well, and I don't
Okay.
know why I didn't sleep well, but I think that I'm to that age. So I woke up when he came up for a shower. So that would have been 6:50, 6:45.
And you said because he was getting a shower, that's when you woke up? Okay.
And he used to shower downstairs, but last week you'll see stitches on his hand. See it? I don't know which hand. Because last week in the shower, our shower door shattered. He's not having a good week. Oh, that sounded good.
You got stitches in his hand from the shower door?
It's glass,
Oh,
and it just
okay.
shattered into 9 million little pieces.
Really? Oh, no.
And
Which hand was that?
I think it was his right hand.
So right hand should have
I went
stitches.
to the emergency room with him.
Okay.
No, it was his left hand. It was his left.
Oh.
You'll see.
You've been painting?
Okay, so yesterday we went to a rummage sale, and I found this really cute little toy thing, and so I put primer on it, and I thought I'd paint it for my granddaughter.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, that was really observant of you.
I just know when you talk about stitches on your hand, I thought you were going to show me like which hand. So you think it was his right hand though? Did he have
I think it was
stitches?
his left hand.
Or left. Do you know how many he got?
3, I think.
Okay, so not too bad. And then, so after he got his shower this morning though,
Yeah,
you
he
said he woke
managed
up.
to. He didn't need a spotter.
Okay. Okay. So, and then when did you see him after that? Did you have breakfast with him? What happened after that?
I didn't get out of bed.
Oh, you just kind of woke up and you were alert
Right.
in bed.
Yeah,
Okay.
and we have our bedroom is an attic. Was an attic, and so the bathroom's right here, and so
Okay.
he got dressed and left.
Did he say? Did you guys talk before he left or anything like that?
About the water leak.
Oh.
And I discovered it yesterday when I was cleaning out from under the sink, and so he asked me what all the wet cloths were in the sink, and that was when I remembered it. And so he went down to get something to put under the sink, so if it was still leaking, that it wasn't, it wouldn't ruin it.
Okay. And so then you think he left like around 7 to 10, maybe something like that?
7:05, 7:10,
7:05,
yeah.
7:10. Okay. And then the next thing you know after that is, when did you hear something?
Maxine called me.
Is that the text you guys were talking? I think I missed that. That's why. Okay.
Okay, so Maxine called me. Come on, Nancy. Okay. So, I guess either this is the first time or the last time, but it was all right within a 10-minute period, so 10:09.
And you guys talked on the phone?
She said, what do you know about what's going on at OCI? And I said, I don't know anything, what's going on? And she said, well, it's on the news. And I said, okay. And she told me what she had heard. And she works for Potluck in the Park. So Potluck in the Park had called her, and she was on her way down here at that point, but didn't come because to set up her class for tomorrow.
So Potluck in the Park, is that around here, or?
Okay, so this is the corner up here. This is OCI. This is Potluck in the Park. It's
like
directly diagonal.
So they called her to ask her to tell her about this incident?
Sure. Gossip spreads quickly.
Maxine, does she work here?
Borcherding?
Okay, do we know her name yet? Or
I don't know if I have her name yet.
Maxine.
BORSCH, I think. ERDINE.
Okay. And then do you have her number handy?
Of course.
Okay.
My whole life is on this phone. Oops, stop. Okay, I gotta go back because I'm. Oh man. Come on, Nancy, think.
Okay, take your time.
Okay, her phone number is 503-46.
She works right over there. You think she's working over there right now?
Oh, no.
Oh.
She's at home.
Oh, okay. Okay.
She used to work with them all the time, and I've heard a rumor, but she hadn't confirmed it with me that she wasn't with them anymore. So I think, it's a donation. It's a volunteer thing, and
okay.
Like everything else in the world, it's political.
Yeah. Karen, would you like me to do one of these for the pickup truck?
Oh, yeah, let's do
Make
that.
sure we do that. You want?
Sure, I'll just do it. So, obviously, what this is just a search by consent.
Oh,
and
sure.
we're just asking for your permission to be
Sure.
able to search Dan's truck and go through
Sure,
that.
and clean out the trash.
Well, I'm not going to do that.
You may want to just put that on there as well.
Yeah.
Just to cover it.
So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put that down here as far as the info on the and the phone too. Correct.
I don't have a key with me, but he's got a key, obviously. But I can get you an extra key if you need it.
Okay.
I know this is selfish, but what am I going to do without him? How am I going to get
It's
through?
not selfish. No, don't you worry.
I should be worried about him, and all I could think about is, oh my God.
Yeah, take one step at a time, okay?
I know. I'm
Just
sorry.
take it slow. And there's nothing you can, there's not a lot of things you can do right now. Your mind's going a million miles per hour. You want to do all these things, but you just got to take a deep breath. You got family on the way, correct?
And my father-in-law's coming.
Okay. And you need to seek support from your loved ones right now, okay? And just take it slow, okay? You need to be with your loved ones and your family right now. As soon as we get done here, we have a person outside that works with tips for traumatic incidents that can help you with any resources to see if you need anything they can assist you with, okay? You're gonna have our business cards, we gave you those, and if we can help you in any way, we're gonna be working real hard on this right now, you know that, but if you need anything,
But
you
you
can
know,
call
here's
us.
the terrible thing. Even if you find who shot him, he's not going to bring him back. And I want him back. That's the part I want. I don't care about who shot him. I just want him back. I don't want him dead.
No, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
So, just try to slow down a little bit and try to breathe, and we'll get through this part, and you can be with your family, okay? Thank you for your patience, too.
Oh, no, that's, it's not like I was doing anything else.
Well, I know.
Probably the wrong thing. So.
No, this has got to be extremely difficult. I have no idea what you've gone through.
Do you need a photo of him?
I don't think so.
Wouldn't mind seeing one, yeah. Yeah, do you have one we can look
He's so cute. On his phone, when you flip it over, there's a picture of him with the rooster. That's his favorite picture.
Oh, yeah?
Do I have a photo here? Sure. Okay.
Yeah, I'll go get that for you.
I thought I did.
No,
Oh, do I need to sign?
Oh, yeah, just sign there that it's okay for us to search the vehicle.
Oh, here he is. So this is when we were in Silk Harbor House in Victoria. And
Wow, that is quite the bolo tie.
yeah, well, yes, he's got a whole collection.
Does he?
Uh-huh.
Is that, it's real turquoise, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's quite a lot.
I think he got that when we were in Santa Fe on vacation. And this was Victoria.
Oh, So I'm just putting the date and the time that she signed.
Okay.
That you got 11:20.
Hey, did you get my text? Okay. Okay, what's got the password? The phone. Okay, all right. It's an iPhone 6. The phone number I gave you with a passcode number. Okay. What do you mean? Oh, okay, gotcha. All right. So we can do what we need to with it. So first, and then you can. Okay, I got you. Okay. Yep. Okay. All right. I gotta run. I'll talk to you. Bye.
All right. I should put the info in there. Thank you for that.
Sure.
Appreciate that. And I don't know if we'll need the key at this point in time. I might be handy to get that at some point.
The extra key.
I don't have it with me, but I can get it.
I just don't know if,
Yeah.
I don't know where the other set of keys are at. So, I mean, if
Well,
if
there'd be in a pocket or nothing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we talked about a lot of stuff, but is there anything that we didn't ask you that you think's important we should know about? Anything he might have mentioned in just passing about somebody hanging out by the plate? You know what I mean? Just some weird, there's a lot of transients around here. I'm gonna be very honest with you. I think you know that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Anything he talked about?
I used to be the caterer for Temple Beth Israel, and we
Did
used
you?
to say it had a high mutant factor in that neighborhood. And this neighborhood was not exempt.
Yeah.
No, he didn't say anything to me. And when I tell you he kind of operated in the tunnel, he really did. You know.
Hey, what about coffee? Would he come and get his coffee, morning coffee anywhere?
Tea? No, here.
Tea?
No.
The tea ring.
Okay. He not okay. Here's his routine. I didn't even think about this till you just said that. Somewhere in there, you're going to find a big plastic glass that is filled with tea, loose tea, and so he would have that in the morning, and then he'd take it to work with him because.
What does it look like? The one that he usually takes?
It's sometimes blue and yellow, I think, blue or yellow,
Okay.
and it's just it's a huge glass,
Okay.
and he drinks that all morning long, and it's his specialty. It's that lapsang soussong,
Does he put any milk or anything in it? No. Just
sugar, and actually Splenda probably. Yeah.
Does he carry culinary equipment like his
Knives?
own knives or anything?
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. I mean, he carries stuff all the time, but it's instructor stuff.
Yeah, I mean, he typically leaves his instructor stuff here at the place. He wouldn't necessarily have his own
He would
set.
have a red book bag type of thing with him, and the red book bag would be his.
Okay, so red book bag, that would be his, like, just stuff that he's got for the day or whatever.
Sure, I have no idea, but I'm sure
that's
it's all.
what he uses usually.
Yeah.
He doesn't have like a briefcase or some other kind of bag. It's a red book bag.
He is so low key.
No, that's fine.
No,
I know, but we just want to be able to
identify what he would have had.
what he's got as far as personal effects in there.
What about with his credit cards, wallet, cash? What kind of wallet would it look like?
It's a brown leather wallet, and that would have driver's license, a couple of credit cards, probably, his Kaiser card.
You guys have Kaiser insurance?
He has Kaiser.
Oh, okay.
I have Medicare, and he's turning 64 this month, so he's not old enough yet for Medicare.
I see.
But he has Kaiser through work, employee benefits.
What do you remember? What credit cards? Did you have an ATM card or anything?
He's got a Wells Fargo card and a Bank of America card. And the Bank of America card is on his business account, so it probably says Odonata Foods. And the Wells Fargo card is on his personal account, and it probably says Dan Brophy, Daniel C. Brophy.
And what was the business again called?
Odonata. Odanta.
ANTA.
That isn't right.
Okay.
Odanata. Odonata.
Odonata, and then what else?
Odonata, what is it called? Odonata Business Consulting? I think it's called Odonata Business Consulting.
Okay.
Would he ever carry any cash on his person?
Yes.
How much usually?
Well, one.
Or how much this morning?
I don't know, because he would have taken money out of the pig. When you see the carts, there's a pig. It's an honor system thing, and so he would have taken the money out of the pig.
Oh, okay.
And he would come down and check it every
so often.
Every so often, so that
So he has a cart that basically he sells some basic spices and things that people kind of need and whatnot. And on that cart, there's a little pig that people put the money in for buying whatever spices or whatever items that they buy off of his cart.
Right.
It's something that sits inside the building.
It's back in the schoolroom, in the kitchen. There's a.
Yeah.
You've been back there?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah, so there's two carts. One is a wooden cart, and one is a blue plastic cart.
Okay.
And they're both his.
Okay. And how much money? I mean, I know you wouldn't know, but I mean, I'm.
He was so excited one time because he got $80.
Oh,
so,
okay.
I would say it goes 0 to 40 would be more realistic.
Okay. Gotcha.
Because, look, $80, let's pay off the house.
What did the pig look like? Is it like a little ceramic piggy bank type thing?
Yeah, this big.
What color?
I think orange. No, wait, maybe, I don't know, maybe pink. Maybe purple, maybe, I don't know, apparently.
And just when you say this big, you're saying basically like a couple of fist size.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're just doing that because it's recorded.
Oh, yeah.
That's all right.
This big, you can get that.
What about jewelry? Do you have any expensive rings or necklaces or watches or anything like that?
Oh, he would have worn a watch, but no rings. But you can't really wear a ring and be a chef. And if you say the students can't wear one, then you can't wear one. But he would have worn a watch, and he wasn't a necklace kind of guy.
Okay. But he does have bolo ties.
Yes, he does.
Quite a collection.
Yes, he does.
Bolo ties.
Oh,
I showed pictures.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Anything else you think of?
Not at the moment. I think we've gotten the
Thank you
the
all. I'm
schedule of
much
things.
calmer now. Thank you. And I think it was because you all were so calm.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I am too.
Sorry.
And
I don't even know how my life is going to go.
and just take one step at a time. That's the main thing. One day at a time, one step at a time. We're gonna have Nicole come and talk with you. She's the tips volunteer person, and they're here to just kind of help you out. And like my partner said, they have some resources, which check into those things. Obviously, right, it's going to typically, the next couple of days, it's going to be hectic. And here's the other thing is, given the circumstances, the news media is going to be involved in this. And so, and this is just for you can talk to them if you want to. You don't have to. That's up to you. I'm just kind of letting you know that because of that situation, right, they're going to be involved with what's going on, and there's going to be a lot of stuff on the television, just so you know. So I just kind of preparing you because I want you to at least understand that it's going to get there's going to be and who knows what kind of information is going to get put out there. Don't let that trouble you. First of all, we do go through all of that stuff, and we're it's our job to work through what's actually going on with what happened. Of course, if you know something or you find out something and you're concerned that maybe we don't know about it, always feel free to give me a call. If I don't pick up the phone, you can leave me a message and I will get back with you. But feel free to do that because we work for you. We are working for you. And our goal here is obviously to find out what happened. Our goal is also, as police officers, is to hold accountable whoever did this. That's our job. And so, we try very hard to work for you because this is your loved one. This is the person that cared for you and helped you. And so I know that nothing that we do will bring him back, and we're very sorry about that. But at the same respect, we don't want this to happen to somebody else, right? No. And have some other family go through this difficulty. And so that's what we're here about, is justice for Dan and for you. And so we want to find out, and our job is to find out what happened. At some point, we may know all of what happened. We may not ever know completely what happened. That sometimes happens. But I just preparing you so that you understand that sometimes this is a long process that takes time to sort out what happened, right? Everybody's life connects with different people and different situations. Even though you're married to someone, right? He has contacts with people and stuff, and like you said, he's sometimes quiet about things, and maybe he didn't share something that was going on with some other situation, right? So I will do my best to explain things to you when I know them, and I can explain things to you. There's certain things that I will hold onto for a while, just because, given that we're conducting an investigation, right? There's certain things that we need to keep to ourselves so that we protect the investigation, so that we can, make sure that, like, when we talk to somebody else, they, we're getting the information that they actually know, not something that got leaked out. You know what I mean? We want to try to keep all of that as secure as possible, so that we find out the truth. That's what it's about. We're not keeping secrets. We're just holding on to the information. So I just want you to understand.
Yeah.
Sometimes I can answer some questions. Sometimes I may not be able to, but eventually we will do the best we can to find out exactly what took place, so that you understand, and you know it, right? And what you do with it is up to you. You don't have to share that with anybody, but just be aware that news media, they have a job.
I know they do, but I don't want to share my grief with them.
Yeah, exactly. And most people don't. But just be aware that, given the nature of what's taken place, that's something that, is out there going on. And, sometimes for some, sometimes it's easier to not watch the news, just be aware, how best you deal with that stuff. But I just kind of want to give you the heads up.
I'm usually happier.
Hang on a second, let me call you right back.
Anyway,
okay.
But I just wanted to let you know.
And I'm following I write romantic suspense, and so in one of the stories, the girl who knew too much told the wrong guy. So because you're an author and you can make that happen.
Right. Exactly.
So here's the question I'm just realizing: where is he now?
He's in the building.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So he has to stay till the medical examiner. Okay.
This is what's going to happen.
Okay.
We're going to do a lot of pictures. We're going to do search for evidence inside the building, in his truck. We're going to, our process, it takes a long time. So there's a lot of things that we're going to do. We're going to take measurements, talk to all of the students and stuff that are, involved, with being here, how, all of that. So all of that's going to take a long time. And eventually, once we get done with pictures and pertinent evidence around where he was at, the medical examiner will take him, and then he'll get transported to the Oregon medical examiner's office, which is in Clackamas, and then they will perform an autopsy, so that we can understand, any of the other dynamics with regards to, what happened and how it happened. So that's kind of what's going to happen at this point in time. I mean, that's the general
assume eventually they release the body.
Yes, yes, and they will contact you about that. Yes,
me. Okay.
We will give them your name and information, so that they can do that, and they will let you know all of that information when that takes place.
Okay.
That pretty much cover that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, an actual deputy medical examiner comes out here and assists us with the investigation. And like my partner said, they ultimately, by state law, take possession of Daniel after we're done with the evidence collection and everything we can do to try to figure this out, like Darren said. So, but again, this is one step at a time. Don't. We're going to be doing our jobs, so you don't need to.
I know.
Yeah.
To overwhelm yourself too much, but you have our numbers. If you think of something, you can call us.
I will.
Leave us a message, and we'll call you right back as soon as we can.
Okay. I just can't imagine who would want to kill him. He wasn't that kind of guy. I mean, he wasn't the kind of guy who got involved in anything. I mean, like that. I've never even known him to have a confrontation with anybody.
Okay. Was he was he bringing anything to work today specifically
I
that
don't
you knew
know.
about? Okay.
And I wouldn't know that.
Okay.
You know, Dan is kind of, he has
He's doing
piles
his
of,
thing.
he has piles of stuff he brings in, piles of stuff he brings home. I mean, I was at home this morning and I discovered all this food in the den, and I looked at it and I knew it was chicken food, but tell me why we need it in our den. But, you know, he's just that kind of guy, you know, and he's pretty independent, and he's a wonderful guy. He really is a wonderful guy. Oh man.
Okay. Should we just? Yeah, we're
Okay, I'll
done.
turn that off.
So we're gonna
It's
stop the recording.
11:39. Does that sound right?
11:39. Yep.
11:39. I'll turn the recorder off.
So Detective, I think we heard the time frame there, but it sounds like the interview started at 10:47 a.m. and ended at 11:39. Is that what we heard?
Yes, that's correct.
And that recording, was that in the entirety of the interview, or was there some more questions or anything that were asked before or after?
I think there was a small conversation where Ms. Crampton-Brophy was standing with some uniformed patrol officers waiting for Detective Posey and I to come and introduce ourselves to her and then to escort her to the van. So I think she might have been talking about how long Dan had worked there, and he's known a lot of the staff for a long time with the other, as we were coming in to
Okay,
introduce ourselves.
Something you overheard as you were walking?
Yes.
Up? Okay.
And then there was also conversation after that where we were, as I mentioned before, coordinating to make sure Ms. Crampton-Brophy got home safely. We were aware that she had driven there herself. You know, a family notification, if you're not gathering that from listening to that lengthy interview, can be very emotional, very awkward. It's a very difficult thing to do. I know I don't, you know, relish giving a family member a notification that their loved one just died. It's a difficult thing to do. So we're trying to be patient, get as much information, critical information as we can from Ms. Brophy to help us with the investigation, help us with the habits and things we talked about. And then we coordinated to get her a ride home.
And I mean, I know you said it's not something that you enjoy doing, giving these death notifications, but I imagine you've given quite a few of them in your line of work.
Unfortunately, yes.
And I'm sure you get all kinds of different reactions from people when you're doing these notifications.
Absolutely, yes.
But with Miss Brophy in particular, just from your opinion, and based on your experience and what you were seeing with Miss Brophy during that interview, did she seem confused to you during this interaction?
Yeah, I'm going to object to the opinion testimony.
Well, it's calling for a lay opinion. I think he can give his opinion as to whether she seemed confused. I'll allow it.
She seemed reasonably acting like a person would act when they've been, you know, to a certain extent, when they're being told that their loved one just died, where they're kind of a little scattered-minded. But she seemed very lucid with the sequence of the mornings of events, and, you know, it combined with details about a sink that had been running in a conversation with Dan about that, about, you know, she didn't sleep well and she was up at exactly roughly 6:45 to 6:50 a.m., that she remembers him getting dressed and leaving, that she was alert and in bed. And then she talks about later in this notification about noticing chicken food in a different room in the den, I believe she said. So, I mean, it's, in my opinion, it sounded like she had a lot of details that sometimes somebody wouldn't have when I notify them. They might be more like, sometimes people would just shut down totally and not talk and just be very emotional.
And when I'm talking about the confusion too, I mean, did she seem oriented to time and space and I mean, stuff like that?
Yes, yes, she did.
I stopped you there. It's about 2 till 5.
That works.
Why don't we adjourn for today? I would assume we're starting at 9 o'clock tomorrow, unless anyone tells me there's a reason not to.
Hopefully.
All right. So we'll be in recess and we'll plan to start at 9 tomorrow.
Okay, we'll go off record and I'll go ahead and disconnect the WebEx. All rise for the jury.